Prince Harry has just lost the plot. I know a lot of you will think that happened a long time ago, but this is the height of insanity.
So it behoves William and Catherine to make sure that he feels, they can bring him along slowly. And involved in the armed forces is a perfect way to do that.
Prince William has stepped over Prince Harry, over the royal rota, and he's doing it as he wants to. He's doing media on his terms.
As we've seen, nothing about them is unique. Nothing about them is inherently interesting, with the exception of his family.
Harry will not receive enhanced security for his upcoming trip to the UK next month, raising fresh questions about whether Meghan Markle, Archie and Lily will ultimately accompany him. The Royal and VIP Executive Committee, RAVIC, has declined requests for additional protection just days before Harry is scheduled to return to Britain for a series of engagements.
So we have members of the royal family, quite clearly. She was just recently outside of the royal box at Wimbledon, going to other places as well, which we may discuss later. Point is, other members of the royal family are willing to take more risks with their lives. They are outside of the royal family. We have this excuse that they can't come to the UK because of the security threat.
This hasn't been leaked by the government, okay? This has been leaked directly from Prince Harry and his team to Chris Shipp at Woke ITV.
A father is watching his son publicly destroy himself. A spare is begging for a motorcade. A future queen is doing her duty in silence. What happened here isn't just a scandal. It's a complete collapse of character. And it all started the moment he decided to leave.
The madman, and I really do mean that, has leaked his own security report, which he had previously submitted to the government to try and get you, to try and get me, British taxpayers, to spend millions and millions of pounds a year to ensure that he has armed guards wherever he goes in the world.
Let me tell you who's really been hurt in all of this, because nobody's talking about them. The Invictus Games. Real disabled veterans, real servicemen and women who lost limbs, their sight, or their hearing. They came together because one man told them he believed in their cause. He said it was his life's work. He said it mattered more to him than anything. That was a lie.
And all the drip feeding coming out, going to see the grave of Diana, going to Invictus. Meghan might make some public appearances, but probably won't with the children. Where they're going to stay. And then you get the story, well, now they may not come because he's not happy with the security arrangements.
For the past 2 weeks, you've heard about security reports, motorcades, and whether Meghan is coming to UK. But do you know what the veterans heard? They heard, I only care about myself now. The Invictus Games are coming to Birmingham next week, marking 1 year to go. It's supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it's been overshadowed by one man's tantrum. Comments from across the country are saying the same thing. Invictus should drop him, not because people are angry with him, but because they feel sorry for what he's doing to the charity.
If there is a specific threat, like a terror threat, security will immediately be provided, because Harry's team keep on trying to say this line, Rafe, and it's not true. This is the problem. They just lie through their teeth. It makes me sick that journalists just swallow it. They keep saying, oh, Taylor Swift gets security when she comes to the UK. No.
Thing about that, he created something. He gave a name. He told the world it was his mission. And now, when it matters most, he's using those veterans as leverage. Give me what I want, or I won't show up. That's not service. That's extortion.
Harry coming over to support things that are close to his heart. Meghan coming over, but we get this sideshow of what's going on. Will he, won't he? Where's she going? Where are they staying? It's just so unedifying and frustrating, I think, for all and sundry. And
an actual patron of charity, someone genuine, someone with real responsibility, would say, I don't care if the security isn't perfect. These people need me. I'm going. That's what Catherine does. That's what the monarchy does. But Harry is treating a charity full of wounded soldiers like a bargaining chip in a negotiation with his own family.
She's on court 18, I think, Rafe, if you know Wimbledon. And look, people are passing behind her. Do you see that? And as Royally Sage put it, she's sitting there where people can walk by without drama, about security. This is the future Queen of England. And so Harry is trying to create a dire situation here.
The veterans didn't ask for this. They didn't ask to be caught in the middle of a family conflict. They asked for someone who cared about them. Instead, they got a man who only cares about himself. That's where this story really begins. Last month, a confidential security report landed on the desk of the government committee responsible for deciding who receives protection in the UK. It was a 40-page document prepared by a private security firm based in Los Angeles.
He has linked this to his propagandists at Woke ITV, suggesting that he is such a terror target ahead of his planned visit next week with Meghan Markle and his two children, Archie and Lily.
Here's the problem. Harry paid for it. Think about that. He hired a company. He paid them $3 million a year. Then he asked them to make the case that he was in mortal danger. What do you think they concluded? They cited 6 alleged terror plots. 5 said to have originated in Britain, an al-Qaeda document calling for his assassination, and nearly 500 potential stalkers across the country. The report portrayed him as facing one of the biggest security threats in modern British royal history. Within days, it was leaked to ITV News. Every major outlet reported it as fact, not as a report Harry had commissioned, but as evidence of newly revealed threats.
Announcing just days before Prince Harry is expected to return to the UK, ITV News has seen a confidential security report claiming the Duke faces 6 terrorist threats, 5 of which allegedly originate in Britain. The report, prepared by the Sussex's private security firm, there's the cue, clue, they pay them $3 million a year, also argues Harry's protection officers are prevented from adequately responding to an armed attack while he is in the UK.
The framing was, this is real, this is serious. This is why he needs protection. But here's what nobody talked about. When you pay someone $3 million a year to assess your security risks, it's reasonable to question how independent their conclusions are. The government's response? Silence at Ravek. The committee responsible for making these decisions didn't even hold a reassessment meeting. It didn't convene. It didn't debate the issue.
Tori Buckerhay on X said, so dumb, unemployed Prince Harry gets a garbage security report written for him and Chris Shipp publicises it like Dumbo is an important world leader. What an absolute farce. And royal YouTube sensation, a contributor here on Outspoken, according to Taz, made the point that if Harry actually truly does feel that there is such a serious threat against his family in the UK, then why the hell is he actually bringing his children here?
Then came the letter. After all of that, after the report, the headlines, and the leaked documents, they sent him a phone number. That was it. The contact information for a liaison officer, as though he were any other private citizen visiting the country and owed protection. No motorcade, no special status, just a phone number. That single moment tells you everything you need to know about how the government assessed the actual threat level. If officials had believed there was even a credible possibility of imminent danger, they would have been expected to respond accordingly. They would have had to escalate the matter in line with their procedures. They didn't.
I know there should be security, but he obviously feels he wants the bells and whistles variety.
Because remember, he complained about how he was late to every one of his engagements one of the last times he was in the United Kingdom because he didn't have the big, presidential motorcade that he wants, that Prince William has and that King Charles has. And it's just like, you just need to accept that that's not your reality anymore, buddy. Leave 15 minutes early. Suck it up.
Well, absolutely.
Here's the question that many people say broke this entire case wide open, and it came from ordinary people in the comments. If you genuinely believe there were 6 terror plots targeting your family, if you truly fear assassination attempts, and if you really thought your children were in mortal danger in the UK, would you bring them? Would you put your 7- and 9-year-old children on a plane to a country where, according to your own report, there were active threats? The answer, many argue, is no. No parent would.
She says he either has no intentions of bringing Archie and Lily and has just used them to pressure Ravik and to emotionally blackmail his father by lying, or he knows deep down that there is no major threat and he's still using the children to get what he wants. But the royal grift is even concerned that Harry could try and engineer some type of false flag attack. She said, I can see these two harming others around them to prove to the Home Office he is a target. Sounds like Harry is foreshadowing it.
But that's exactly what he said he was going to do. He announced it publicly weeks in advance. sharing the dates, the locations, and the schedule. We're coming to the UK. We'll be attending the Invictus games, possibly seeing family, and possibly visiting Diana's grave. Here's our itinerary if the danger were truly as severe as described. Every detail he released publicly would have increased the potential risk to his children. Critics argue that this would be difficult to reconcile with the actions of a parent who genuinely believed the threat was that serious.
It just feels like they're trying to blackmail the royal family into doing, if you don't, we'll go off in another hissy fit. And this is where it makes me pull my hair out, because I just don't understand it. Because either you're coming here, just get on the plane, get here, and try and repair the damage. Yes, you're doing Invictus, Harry. That's important to you. Get on the plane, go and do that.
But there's another possibility, one that some critics argue fits the facts more closely. What if there's no extraordinary danger? What if the report was never really about safety? What if it was always about something else entirely? Because here's what we know. He has traveled to Ukraine, Colombia, and Nigeria, countries that have experienced documented security challenges. He brought Meghan with him, and on some trips, he also brought his children. But when it comes to UK, the message suddenly changes. It's presented as exceptionally dangerous. Suddenly, it's said to be too risky.
That there is a lot of manipulation going on behind the scenes to try to secure what they want. The headline in January was that Ravik was going to reassess. They were going to do a full report and reassess Prince Harry's security status, and he was likely to get it. Well, the reports that are in, thanks to Matt Wilkinson, are that Ravik didn't even reassess. They didn't even think it was worthy of reassessing Harry's security status. That, debate or that meeting never even happened.
The only difference between those countries and the UK is one thing. In the UK, he can't control the narrative in those other places. He is the one making the visit. He's the important figure. But in Britain, he's the one asking for something. He's the one at a disadvantage. The parents watching this understood it immediately. One comment received millions of likes. Anyone that afraid wouldn't bring their children. He's making a fool of himself, because that's parental instinct. That's common sense. That's what every parent understands. You don't put your children at risk for a political point. Except, critics argue, he did, or at least he was willing to. And to them, that reveals what this was really about.
But I think she may want the status of having that sort of security detail around her. But of course, you put your finger on it earlier on. I think she's trying to wind up Harry as well and make every possible gambit that the British government won't grant security status, and therefore Prince Harry won't take her over there because she doesn't want to be booed. She never wants to come to this country. So she's trying to convince Harry actually that he'll never be able to take his family over there. I think that's deeply at the root here, because the one thing she can't stand is the idea of being rejected by the British.
The moment the cracks started to show, they appeared quickly. First came the superfan. Buried in the 40-page report was a claim about a woman who had allegedly gained access to a London courtroom twice. It sounded serious. It sounded dangerous. It sounded like exactly the kind of person who would be considered a potential security concern. Then someone recognized her face. She was identified by some as a devoted Sussex supporter, a passionate follower, not a terrorist, and not necessarily a threat. Someone who attends events to see Harry and Meghan. Many commenters argued that she was simply a fan, not someone with harmful intentions. Even journalist Chris Shipp was photographed with her, which some people cited as evidence that she was known within the fan community, rather than a dangerous individual.
The report, commissioned by Harry's own private security firm, details dozens of threats and potential attacks facing the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, and includes an Al-Qaeda document which called for his assassination. The document was submitted to the UK Security Committee, tasked with deciding whether Harry should get state-funded protection when he travels in the country. The whereabouts of 4 of the convicted individuals associated with the terrorist threats against Harry are currently unknown to the private security firm employed by the Sussexes. The confidential risk assessment was prepared for the Prince in February and was sent to the Ravik Committee.
That photo raised questions about the credibility of the entire document. If a devoted fan was included as part of security concern, people began asking, what else might have been misinterpreted? Then came the bigger contradictions. He was willing to travel to places with documented security challenges. He was willing to announce his locations weeks in advance. Something critics argue would be unusual for someone who genuinely feared an assassination attempt. He was comfortable with Meghan appearing at public events, giving interviews, and remaining visible. But when it came to returning to Britain without a motorcade, that was where the line was drawn.
The Threat and Vulnerability Risk Assessment marked confidential reports that the UK's Metropolitan Police, I presume, are aware of nearly 500 potential stalkers targeting the royal family, of which half have demonstrated a threat against Prince Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children. Despite Harry and his children being 5th, 6th, and 7th in line to the throne, he had his automatic royal protection removed in 2020. Harry claims he was promised a review each year. However, none has taken place, he believes. He's travelling to his home country for a series of events and had already announced he would travel with Meghan and the children.
And then came the image that changed the conversation. Court 18 at Wimbledon, the future Queen of England sitting in a public seat with strangers walking directly behind her. No barriers, no obvious security presence, no special arrangement. Just Catherine watching tennis, appearing completely accessible to those around her. One commentator put it this way: you have a hard time spotting any security around Catherine at times. She had also recently completed the Three Peaks Challenge, covering 23 miles across open Scottish mountains. 18 months after cancer treatment. She did it publicly, visibly, and without creating the impression of being inaccessible. Critics argued that if the UK were truly as dangerous as the report suggested, Catherine herself would face significant risks. Yet they point to her public appearances as evidence that the situation may not be as severe as portrayed.
The Princess of Wales popping up on a three-peak challenge without having, which obviously is a very highly risky place to be, open to everybody, not a very easy place if you had knowledge of that, where you could go and strike there. So we have members of the royal family quite clearly. She was just recently outside of the royal box at Wimbledon, going to other places as well, which we may discuss later. Point is, other members of the royal family are willing to take more risks with their lives. They are outside of the royal family. We have this excuse that they can't come to the UK because of the security threat. Members of the royal family have been going abroad for years secretly without anyone.
There's something people don't talk about enough, and the comments kept returning to the same question. Is Harry driving this himself, or is someone else influencing the decisions behind the scenes? Panel discussions repeatedly focus on one topic: Meghan's reported concerns about being booed, her anxiety about public rejection, and her desire to maintain a certain public image. One royal analyst put it this way: she doesn't want to come. She's afraid of rejection. So she's allowing Harry to believe they are in danger, which leads him to demand protection. When that request is denied, it gives him a reason not to return and keeps her away from a situation where she might face public embarrassment.
Be here and don't just bring them over for 2 weeks and then sugar off. Let's be honest. We don't know, but the vibes coming up, unless people are making this stuff up, we get the feeling the Sussex PR machine are trying to say, look, we want to come, but actually it's not our fault. We don't feel safe. I don't get that. I'm pretty sure they all should be able to feel safe. And we're given that they've been to Colombia, they've been to Nigeria, they go to Australia.
Is that what's happening? Is he being guided into this? Is this what happens when someone with genuine confidence meets someone with deep insecurity? Because critics argue that a pattern has emerged. Every time he's expected to show humility, they say he escalates. Every time he's expected to move on, they say he responds with further criticism. Every time a situation calls for restraint, they argue he demands more. They point to the staff departures at Archwell, where some former employees said they had accomplished what they came to do. Critics interpreted those departures differently, suggesting it reflected deeper workplace issues. Then there were claims from some Montecito neighbors who criticized Harry and Meghan's public image and accused them of being distant or selective in their relationships. The question remains, is this a pattern, or is it simply a matter of public perception?
Listen, I'm telling you, there's plenty of things for them to do to devote their life to service.
Yeah.
But one of the reasons their neighbors can't stand them is they don't do anything for the community. And so go devote your life to your community.
So I did not know that. So the rich famous neighbors in Montecito, they don't like Harry and Meghan.
No.
Number one insider claimed, Meghan looks over your shoulder to find the bigger deal. Meaning, while she's speaking with someone, she's already looking around the room for someone more influential. Critics argue that this reflects more than arrogance. It suggests a constant need for validation and recognition. And if you're married to someone with that mindset, they say you either separate yourself from it or become influenced by it. According to this narrative, Harry became part of that same pattern then. 2 weeks ago, something happened that many royal observers had been watching for, but few expected him to fully understand. Prince William walked into the Kelsey brothers' podcast studio, not with permission slips, not with palace approval, and not with a carefully prepared list of approved questions. He simply walked in, sat down, and talked. And in a single interview, critics argued he accomplished what Harry has spent years trying to achieve, connecting with millions of people in a way that felt authentic.
Prince William has decided to speak to the future independent media, and he has spoken to Travis Kelce and his brother for their podcast. This is huge. Not only will it infuriate Meghan Markle, but it will also annoy the hell out of the royal rota. It's like the double whammy of good news we all needed. It's been a week. Is Harry coming? Is he not? Is Meghan coming? Is she not? And then, just when we were all feeling like we can't cope with those Montecito grifters anymore, Prince William gives us a right old dollop of good news.
The Kelce brothers are Travis Kelce's brothers. The same Travis Kelce who was in a relationship with Taylor Swift. They gave William an introduction that lasted 90 seconds. A genuine, respectful, and detailed introduction. The kind you give someone you truly admire. When Eugene Levy interviewed William, someone asked him whether they discussed a Harry and Meghan drama. Eugene's response was simple and direct. I didn't ask about it. It wasn't of interest. I had better things to talk about with him. That's the contrast critics often point to. One son spent years publicly discussing his grievances. The other spent those same years focusing on projects, responsibilities, and building his public role.
So the fact that Prince William has done this American-based podcast with Mr. Taylor Swift is massive. It opens Prince William up to our friends in America, and he can start to build relationships with people outside of the UK on his terms. The Royal Rota is, I would argue, owned and curated by the palace. I personally trust nothing that comes out of it. And so what Prince William is doing is he's stepping over the very ecosystem that drove his mother to destruction.
Catherine completed the Three Peaks Challenge 18 months after cancer treatment, raising money for the hospital that supported her recovery. There was no major announcement beforehand. No cameras following every step. She simply showed up and did it. William has continued doing radio interviews, appearing on podcasts, and having genuine conversations with people, building relationships, building trust, and moving forward. Meanwhile, critics argue that Harry remains focused on the issue of security arrangements and a motorcade. William did not learn to move on because he was heartless. Supporters say he learned from watching what his mother experienced when media attention and public drama consumed parts of her life. He chose a different path, to serve, to be present, and to focus on people rather than conflict. Critics see the contrast this way. One son honors mother's legacy through quiet duty and service, while they believe the other has used her memory differently in shaping his public story. That contrast, they argue, is what will influence how the next chapter of the monarchy is remembered.
The protection, I think, will just be there around. If they're going to see members of their family, I'm sure that there will be a level of protection anyway. And Ravik don't want anything to happen to them.
Yeah.
So, there's just to think, we'll leave them and wash our hands of them. They'll keep tabs on what's going on and making sure that they know what Harry's just got to say, this is where I'm going to be. This is what we're doing. and work accordingly. Here's his timetable of what he's planning to do. Away we go.
Here's what people miss when they're focused on the drama. The message, according to critics, was clear. It wasn't just a government. It involved the palace, the royal family, the committees, the press, and even members of his own family, his father, his brother, and his sister-in-law. When someone feels rejected by everyone around them, critics argue that it may not always be persecution. It may be a message that Ravek did not hold a meeting. Think about that. A claimed security concern involving a member of the royal family. Yet the committee did not convene a formal discussion or debate the matter publicly. The government did not escalate the situation. Instead, he received contact information for a liaison officer. The palace issued a statement saying the matter was for the Home Office to handle. His family did not publicly challenge the decision. They did not release a competing statement or intervene publicly. They remained silent, and sometimes silence speaks louder than words. King Charles could have intervened. As monarch, critics argue he had influence. He could have chosen to support his son's request for protection. Prince William could have called a family meeting or attempted to mediate. Catherine could have made a public statement of support. But none of that happened. Instead, she appeared at Wimbledon, sitting in public, carrying out her duties in the public eye.
Harry claims he was promised a review each year. However, none has taken place, he believes. He's travelling to his home country for a series of events and had already announced he would travel with Meghan and the children. But Harry's office says they received a letter at the end of last week saying they could have the phone number of a police liaison officer during the visit, but nothing more. I sort of love that because it's shade from the British government and the...
When everyone around you, your family, your government, and the institutions you once represented, says no, and none of them feel the need to publicly argue about it, critics say that isn't conspiracy. It's a message. They may believe they understand something you don't, and they are all making the same choice, to move forward without you. This was never presented as just a security issue. The arguments about threats, reports, and leaked documents became part of a much larger debate. Critics argue those points were used to explain something deeper, a struggle over control. When you're a part of an institution, that institution provides structure. It tells you what matters, where you fit, and what your purpose is. The moment you leave, much of that disappears. You become responsible for creating your own identity outside the role you once held. And for someone who has always felt important because of that institution, losing it can create a difficult adjustment, and so the demands continued. Security, status, recognition, and protections that would extend beyond the role itself. But the institution he left behind, the same institution he later criticized, said no. For some observers, that was the moment everything changed. They argue that Harry learned the same, less than others before him have faced. Once you step outside an institution, it no longer owes you the same privileges. Not automatic protection, not automatic recognition, not a guaranteed path back. Only the opportunity to build a future of your own. The choice was always his, and it still is. The security dispute became about more than security. It became a question of identity, independence, and control. And now, as public attention continues, another chapter remains. What Charles Spencer said when Harry wanted to film Diana's grave, what Netflix expects from the couple, and how this story ends when the institution stopped answering the phone.